That's what I call bad culture. The culture is bad. And my job as I'm getting older is to change the culture as much as I can by doing right things. And then I'm not saying that I'm going to change the culture just globally, but what I can do is to believe what I believe, and then exercise that and practice that and educate that as much as I can.
Welcome to Beyond Clean with Ace. In the world of commercial cleaning, whether you're new to the industry or a seasoned professional, you know we're all more than just toilets, windows, and floors. We're just like everyone else with diverse interests in everything. Now, in Season 9, tens of thousands have discovered engaging and thoughtful knowledge that's truly game changing at Beyond Clean with Ace. Whether you're a facility manager, a frontline staff member, or a building services contractor, we're here to help you grow personally and professionally. So hit that subscribe button and share with others. We're all about enhancing lives in healthy, positive, and proactive ways. So join me, Dave Thompson, Director of the Academy of Cleaning Excellence, your host at Beyond Clean with Ace.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Dave Thompson, and as you can see, I'm here again in front of the camera. It's podcast time again. You know, it's kind of nice to have new people come on the podcast. You're used to hearing me all the time. After 9 years, you probably don't want to hear me talk much at all. Hey, you know what? I got somebody here that's probably not. I think he's going to talk about something you probably don't talk about very much. Anyway, it's Beyond Clean with Ace, and we talk about everything about cleaning. Today, we're going to talk about stone floors. Yep. Stone floors are something that a lot of people really don't think too much about, but they can be beautiful. They can be real exasperating. But, I don't want to be putting floor finish on stone floors. And I think that's what he's going to talk about quite a bit. So let's see if our connection works. We're going to jump a little bit from Florida. Let's go to Chicago, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so we're going to talk about stone floors. So Kosta, tell people who you are, what you do, and why did you ever get into stone floors?
Yes, my name is Kosta Ebanoidze. I'm from Chicago area, and I own a company called Pinnacle Stone Restoration. What Pinnacle Stone Restoration mainly does is marble, natural stone, and terrazzo refinishing work for floors, for countertops, or for other types of surfaces, but mainly floors. So we do refinishing of terrazzo and marble surfaces.
So, I can tell from your accent that you're not Native American. You're an immigrant, or the family was. So, kind of catch us up on how you come about stone floors, because I think you're from Europe.
Yes, I'm from Eastern Europe, the country called Georgia. It's a tiny country, former Soviet Union, and it regained its independence since 1991. And since then, there's many things happened to Georgia. But I was a baseball player. I wanted to play baseball in the United States. I was a member of national team of Georgia, and then my dream was to come and play baseball on a college level, and then after that, professional level. And that was a dream that I chased, and then that's how I got to United States. Then after that, I realized that baseball was just it's not that easy to become a professional athlete. You need the sponsorship, you need a lot of help. So soon enough, I realized that I had to get some skills and learn some trade, and then somehow I got into the stone fabrication. My friends were working in a shop, fabrication shop, and I asked them if they needed anyone, um, and they said, "Yeah, of course, we needed that." There was a 2002, 2003.
All right.
And economy was booming in the United States. The grind countertop industry was flourishing, really, really going forward with it. So they needed like skilled people. So that's how I got into the stone. first my experience with stone started with the fabrication basically, and slowly I realized that as you fabricate countertops, there's some a lot of problems here. Like there's a chip, there's a crack, there's a fissure. So I
Uh-huh.
kind of like the to repair those things or kind of solve the small tiny problems. And I kind of found it very interesting to, let's say you have the whole kitchen and the customer says I don't like this, and just change it, replace it.
So what
And
this
I was
is this is taking care of these issues, what, at their homes or in the fabrication shop?
both, but mainly the customer sees problems in their homes, so they call and say, "Oh, like we don't like certain things about this stone. Why this one has a fissure? Why there's a little discoloration, or there is a little crack, or there's a little scratch, or seam doesn't look right?" So yeah, they would call, and I wasn't the only guy they would trust to send on a job site and take care of those problems. So that's how I started. Basically, I started repairing and solving you know, I wouldn't say small issues, but those small issues would generate a big problem. So I was taking care of those small issues and kind of saving the projects.
Well, yeah, you're
So
probably saving thousands of dollars in stone here, and I mean, you developed a very specialized skill that apparently nobody else had, right?
yeah, so soon enough I realized. So when fabricating, the same problem happens to right now to until today, they have the same problem in fabrication shops. They don't have anything to do with the surfaces because slab, or there's a granite slab or marble slab. It comes over the polished from the manufacturer, right? So what fabricator does, it just cuts the stone by the measurement and then
Right.
polishes the edges, but they don't have nothing to do with the surface. And anyone in the fabrication shop until today, they're not skilled to produce a factory finish back. Let's say there's a scratch, there's no fabricator, or they don't have a staff that knows how to bring back the factory finish. Let's say if you have a scratch and you want to first you want to remove the scratch, you have to hone that area, grind that area, remove the scratch. You have to gradually go by diamond steps, and then you have to bring back the factory finish. So no one was skilled to do that, and I kind of found that this most interesting. I said to myself, I said, like, I have to find a way how we can, and I'm talking about that 2003, 2004. I started my business in 2007, but in that period of time, I kind of started researching the right diamonds, right skills to bring back this factory finish on a granite. And I gotta tell you, if you ever polish granite back to its factory finish, then you can consider yourself skilled technician.
Yeah,
Because if
because
you polish granite,
that's simply mechanical grinding, because there's no chemicals that you can use on granite. It's simply and there's only one thing tougher than granite, and that's diamonds.
exactly. So granite is the most hardest stone to polish back because it requires 100% um, mechanical honing and polishing steps, and then it requires also friction. And friction is the very important part of the polishing uh, process, because without friction, you won't be able to bring back this factory finish and
So
that high.
you're talking about countertops here was the main thing. How did you go from countertops to floors, though, Costa?
Yeah, there was a yeah, exactly. That's a good question. So when I start my business in 2007, and I start doing small repair work, I one day someone called me. There was a company called A Room. It's quite known company here in Chicago area, and they showed me the marble floor, and they said, "Well, we have a problem with this marble floor. There was a crema marfil, and it was a little foyer at the custom home." And I got there, and I didn't know I didn't have any idea how to polish such in a bigger scale. I mean, I knew how to polish granite, like remove the scratch or the small area and blend in with the rest of the surface, but I didn't have any idea how could I polish, let's say, the little foyer, right? Let's say 300 square feet. So there was a quite interesting process, the moment in my life. So realizing, what should I do? So I got lucky. I called one guy who I was buying the diamonds from, and he said that there was a guy in from Florida. Right now, he was in Chicago. His name is Daniel, and he could help me. So I called Daniel. He's from Croatia. Great guy. We became friends. And I asked Daniel. I said, "Listen, here's the situation. I have a floor. I need to polish it." And he says, "Like, yeah, I'll be here. I'll be there tomorrow." So he came by. Great guy, great attitude. So he showed me right away. He brought the floor machine, he put the diamonds on a driving disc, and they start honing the floor. And I was shocked. I said, "Oh my God, what are we gonna do now? Like, how are we gonna bring back this polish? You took off all the sheen of the
Oh,
marble."
and folks, if you've never done this before, what he's explaining right here is honing takes off. I mean, if there's any kind of shine on there at all, honing is going to remove that instantly.
Exactly. So you used the 120 grit diamonds. I
Oh
remember
my.
that.
Oh my, you
So
really went down. You were almost into grinding territory.
in the grinding territory, that's for sure. Because the stone had some edge marks and some scratches. So basically, yeah, I remember I was shocked by but his confidence, they gave me the, kind of good feeling about it. He was so confident about it. He was
Yeah,
almost like, making.
and you were standing there and you weren't confident at all after that.
Yeah, I realized soon enough that it's doable, right? Because now one thing we should remember, like you polish granite mechanically, and then you polish marble uh, chemically,
Correct.
basically. So I remember when he got to the 800 grit, he used the 5X powder, and I'm sure you're familiar with that. It's quite known, old school polishing powder, come from Italy,
So now
called
before we
5X.
go on though, before we go on, let's tell the customers that are, or, the people that are listening, whether they're watching or listening on the podcast today, let's tell them what 5X is and what makes it different from mechanical grinding.
So 5X is basically acid-based powder and contains some abrasives, but the mainly is driven by the acid. So what acid does is kind of buys you time. It's a chemical reaction basically, but you have to prepare marble for polishing. You cannot just jump into it like you cannot do that on 120 grit. You have to go all the way to at least 800 grit to prepare the surface. It has to be perfectly flat. And after that, 5X and soft pad, we usually use red pads or even hog here pads. It's that process, that exchange produced glass-like appearance on the stone. So the
Now, now,
5X is
now, folks, if you're listening, the reason that this happens is because marble has calcium in it and granite doesn't. And so the acid is reacting with the calcium, and that's what gives it the ability to work. And you're using acid as your friend instead of your enemy.
You are absolutely right. That's a very precise description of the process. Yeah, the marble is a calcium-based stone, and acid and calcium, they don't like each other. But as a skilled man, as a politician, I would say in that situation, you have to make sure there's two enemies, they work together to produce something amazing. So that's what really happens.
And it's all based on time. You have to be very, very careful in that. And this is why, this is why we teach this in classes. It's not like mechanical grinding where you can just keep going. And if you spend too much time, it's not going to hurt anything. Matter of fact, time is your friend in mechanical.
Exactly.
When you use that 5X, time is can
crucial.
be your enemy if you let it go too long.
Exactly. So you have to build up the muscle memory when you do that. So it's like if you never done it, you absolutely gonna make a mistake or you're gonna get frustrated with it. But like as you know, kind of gaining the experience with it, you build up the confidence and then and the muscle memory, and that happens. So cream of marble, for example, right? We mentioned cream of marble is quite popular stone marble in the United States. Also, white Carrera is very popular. So, like you got cream color marble and then white marble, white
Right.
with the white background. So they're all calcium-based stones, and then they work well with acid-based polishing powders and pastes. So yeah, absolutely, you have to have experience. You have to feel the momentum, and there's a momentum when you feel like you pay attention how machine reacts to it. You pay attention what with the how powder changes the color, how it
Mhm.
gets a little foamy after a certain time, and when it gets foamy, there is losing its strength anymore. So there is no point to do it. There's a ways to do it. There's other powders you can do completely wet. There's certain diamonds you can start wet and finish it dry.
Mhm.
So there's so many things. But when I started this business in 2007, there were many types of diamonds. Now in 2025, we got you know so many different things happened.
Well,
It
you're talking
changed the
almost,
industry.
yeah, you're talking almost 20 years of technology. Things have changed in 20 years. Now, so from that first granite job, um, I was looking on your website. I want to pull your website up here. Uh, Folks, if you're watching on the video, you can see his website. And I'm going to scroll down here. He's got all kinds of videos and the commercial stuff and everything they do. But if you scroll down in here, you'll find his videos down here at the bottom of the website. And it's down here, it says videos. And if you look at this, I want to ask you, I mean, I saw, and I'm not sure where this machine is, but it's a three-headed monster.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So, I mean, you went from countertops to one machine doing some granite to now you're running these three-headed monster machines. Do they just grind? Do they hone? Do they polish? Tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. So that machine, actually, I was the first one in the United States who got that machine. It is come from that time came from a company called Kleindex from Italy. So they're very this company Kleindex, and now they split. They have a hyper grinder as well. So hyper grinder is basically a new version of the Kleindex. They very much concentrate in the stone restoration equipment, and
Okay.
they came out with that. So basically, what they did, they took one string machine and they put it together as a
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah.
So I saw that, and I right away I thought this has a great potential. So I bought that machine because I had a project, hospital project. I had to do about 3,000 square feet of terrazzo refinishing per shift. So basically per day. So there's no way I could have done it because it was quite complicated. Um, job
Yeah. So
site.
when you're talking about one of these machines, Costa, you're talking about this has to be a big job before you'll bring this in. I mean, there's got to be a big cost to setting up and tearing down and moving. You're
Right.
not going to go in and do a 500,000 square foot job with something like this.
Yeah, exactly. So that machine that time was the best machine in the market. Now we got different machines, different sizes, and I have a huge arsenal in my in our company. We have two of those three head machines. They call Triple K, and then I have monster machines from Hyper Grinder. They're like 2,000 pounds,
Now
and they
that three-headed machine, do you only grind with it or do you hone and polish with it? Do you have special machines only for certain things? The three
yes,
different steps?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. So with a three head machine, Triple K, we hone and polish. It's
No grinding.
grinding, no grinding because it doesn't have that much torque or the head pressure.
Right. Okay.
So for grinding, I use planetary machines, planetary head. So it's planetary movement, and
So do you
they're
mind telling
extremely.
people do you mind telling people, give an idea of what the cost of one of these units are, one versus the other?
So triple K is about $15,000.
Okay.
And then planetary machines that I have three of them. One is 850, which is 85 centimeters, then 750 and 650. So you looking at each machine about from anywhere from 50,000 to 40,000.
So, folks, what you're hearing him say is from that countertop to the one granite with a one low speed machine, here we are some 20 years later, and you've got an arsenal of probably close to $1 million worth of stuff.
For sure. Yes. And I'm keep buying them because I just I just I don't know, maybe I just try to shrink time. I'm trying to achieve the large areas, like I want to refinish large areas in the shortest possible period of time. So that's every project dictates what machinery I have to use. So the reason I got all these machines because the projects dictated. They said, okay, we need that machine, let's do it. And then I have great relationship with hyper grinder from Italy. The Giancarlo is my friend, so he knows my mentality, how we operate. So he always supplies me with the information. If there's a new machine coming up, something interesting, he's always going to share with me. So I always listen because I think this is what I'm trying to do here, Dave. Is stone restoration industry uh, has its own culture, has its own shape, right? So we live in the 21st century. So it has to be like we are in the 21st century. So that's what I'm trying to do with my company, that all the equipment I have for stone restoration or terrazzo refinishing, it's up to date, the best machinery, best technology. So any challenges is going to face me, any obstacles, I'm ready to go through it. So that's what I'm trying to do here. So that's because I can react to the project very fast. Any challenges, any size, like I can take over the airport project. Like this is my dream, actually. I want to do some airports.
Okay. All right.
So airports are like.
So then, as you say that, I'm thinking restoration. You say, but what about the people that just need a little bit of what some people would say spit and polish, just a polish? Do you do that, or is that left to other organizations?
Yeah, no, we do that. So we have residential and commercial divisions, right? We do residential jobs and we do commercial jobs. So many times client needs just a light honing and polishing, and we do that for sure. But
So is that under a maintenance contract with them, or is that just whenever they call?
no. Usually, what I do, I go to the job. Let's say the customer calls me and they have like stone to be restored, or first of all, I have to say something important. The terminology for stone restoration is not out there. People don't know how to find this. They refer different words for, like, let's say they would call and say, we want our marble to be cleaned and sealed, right? Let's say. But when you go there is no cleaning or sealing, because the cleaning and sealing is not going to change anything.
No, right.
Because I always say, by the time stone needs to be cleaned, it has to be restored. Because
Right.
stone develops patina, it develops the scratch pattern from the foot traffic or other wear and tear. So you always have to, the right word that I use is refinishing. Not like restoration is a good word to use, but refinishing, that's where like what you just asked me, like, just little honing and polishing, that's a refinishing basically. So you
And that
kind
can
of,
be done on a frequent basis on and I'm thinking on a contract basis on, based on the foot traffic and the use of the facility, not just whenever you think you need it, because as you said, it's too gone by that time.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I have different approach than different, other restoration companies there because I'm
Okay.
equipped, right? And I have
All right.
different mentality. Let's say I look at the marble floor, I go to the customer's home and they have marble floor. What I first pay attention to is grout joints. Number one, before I look at the stone, I look at the grout joints because the grout joints and grout itself it's a communication, it's a language. It communicates with you certain way because if the stone is weak, or I'm sorry, the floor is weak, it's structurally not sound, right? It will show into the grout before it shows to anything. First, grout's gonna fall apart. Then it's gonna develop the cracks. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, I know.
structural
Chip
problems.
apart.
So, yeah, exactly. So now, other restoration companies, what they do, they look at the grout. If it's discolored or whatever, they're gonna clean it. Maybe they're gonna patch it, but they're not solving the problem. Then they don't know the whole problem behind it. If the grout is falling apart because the floor is weak.
Right. They're camouflaging the issue and
Exactly.
satisfying the customer temporary, but it's going to come back.
Exactly. It's gonna come back. So I have different approach. So over the years, I developed a system. I call it 8+ seamless system, and it's extreme, and I love it, and it works because this is my bread and butter when it comes to residential projects. What I do, I completely remove the grout, and I exchange that with the resin, and after that, I completely remove the lippage. And I make floor seamless for one reason, because if I'm solving the problem for good, because when you remove the cementitious grout and replace with resin, you basically reinforcing the stone and the floor, because resin works like a bonding agent. It brings together those tiles because there's obviously what happened. There's a membrane system didn't work, or there's some settlement cracks and this and that. But to replace the whole marble floor, it's a disaster. But sometimes certain problems leads to better solutions, and that's what I do. I do seamless floors for marble floors, like for travertine, for marble, for limestone. I always, if there's a potential to do it, I always talk to the client and I always try to educate them and explain that will be the best way to go. And then it's been working over the years.
Now,
And
folks,
I have on.
as Kosta was talking, if you're watching on the YouTube video, you probably have seen me scrolling through the website here. And I've got a picture up here from your site that shows your work. And this is one freaking great big machine.
Yeah.
This is what you were talking about the grinding and the torque and everything. This looks like that $40,000 machine.
Yeah, exactly. This is the 850 hyper grinder 850, so 85 centimeters head diameter, planetary movement, and it's got super heavy. I mean, the tool pressure is tremendous there. So it's very important to have a tool pressure. Like your polish comes out better when you have, heavy contact, like the very tight contact with the stone or surface. So
Now,
this,
I also was looking at one of your videos, and this is remote control as well.
yes, exactly. That's remote control because that's a heavy machine, and then no technician can go through it. You have to be physically so strong to just operate that monster all day long.
So, the reason I showed this here as you were talking is because as you were talking about knowing the floor and actually working with the floor and not camouflaging issues, when you bring in something like this, that floor has to be solid in order for you to bring this in, because if that floor isn't right, if you have those cracks, this machine is just going to be a problem. Am I in the right area here?
Yes and no, but mainly this is for commercial projects. Number one, and number two is always most of the time we use that machine for terrazzo or
Okay.
concrete. So in both, like the terrazzo is super hard, super durable floor, and then it's already seamless. It's been installed seamless, and concrete the same thing. So yeah, we wouldn't do that in a residential application, that machine, of course, because this is 480 three-phase
And so
connection it needs.
what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get our listeners to understand that this is very specialized. This machine isn't used on marble, right?
You can use on a marble. Yeah, you can, but it has to be commercial building. Like, it has to be airport, it has to be hotel, or, certain type of high-rise lobby, or, arena or something like that. So, but, there's you see less marble in commercial
Correct.
buildings, but you see more terrazzo. But you see
And
sometimes marble.
explain to the listeners why.
Because terrazzo is traditionally been used for airports, for hospitals, for arenas, for schools. It's just the culture. It was driven that way. Terrazzo was very popular. It still remains itself very popular floor surface. And then it has its own division, right? And it has its own culture. And I can talk for days about terrazzo because it's very interesting, to talk about terrazzo. I think it's a super interesting material. It has amazing history. It's just it brings a lot of skills. It brings. I respect terrazzo a lot. I used to love marble. I still love marble, but as I understood the terrazzo became my thing. I love terrazzo. I love everything about terrazzo.
Now, folks, if you're listening or you're watching here, we thank you very much for being on the podcast with us today. And it's very great to have somebody that understands this stone culture as much as you do. I think the thing here that people need to understand is if you have cementitious terrazzo and it's old, it's not the newer type, it's the older type, it's going to have a lot of marble chips in it. So you're still polishing marble to some point. It's just not slab marble.
Exactly. So even on the epoxy-based terrazzo, you still have marble chips. So terrazzo, cementitious terrazzo or epoxy-based terrazzo, or we call something resin-based terrazzo, they all contain marble chips. And the distribution there, the ratio is about 80% of aggregates, marble chips, and then 20% of matrix, either cement or resin. So yeah, you're absolutely right. When you're polishing terrazzo, you're polishing marble.
But you're polishing the chips instead of the slab, and this is different.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a little different. It's a little more challenging, I would say, because you have to deal with the matrix,
right?
The binding agent, the one that brings all this together. But both epoxy-based or cementitious terrazzos, they have their own characteristics. I love cementitious terrazzo because it polishes more naturally because of cement.
I was about to ask that. So as somebody that does this for a living, you prefer one over the other for any reason?
I have more sentiments towards cementitious terrazzo because it represents the heritage. It represents the, like the skilled people. They came, from overseas, from Italy, from Poland, here.
So it's more back to what you basically got into this for, is because of the skill part of it, and you're still staying true to that.
Exactly. So to me, the cementitious terrazzo represents the culture, history, heritage, and there's always a story behind it, and it's an art. Don't forget about it. The terrazzo is an art.
Yes.
It's
And
for
repairing it is also an art.
I'm sorry.
Repairing it is also an art.
Of course, yeah, repairing is also art. But the problem with floors, basically, people try to save on floors all the time. So what we see, like over the years, I've seen terrazzo being covered with carpet, nailed down,
Yep.
and then we just did the project like last week. It was covered for many years under the carpet, and then you discovered amazing floors and say, "Oh my God, who did that crime? Who made that decision to cover this amazing floor with the cheapest possible uh, flooring material?" And and it's not just that. Imagine what people done in the past. They would take the nail gun and nail down the carpet, and it's a crime.
It
But
is, but the thing is that goes back to the skill that you have now, is that you can go back in and repair that terrazzo, bring it back to life, and bring back the beauty of something natural. And I want to follow up what you just said there. How much do you find, commercial or residential, whichever, that you're taking other floor finishes, sealers, other things off and bringing it back to natural? Or is that much of what you have to do?
no, we see it a lot. We see at least, I would say, 10%, 15% that we find terrazzo under the carpet, especially in schools, um, churches, like old buildings. There's many times that we find terrazzo under vinyl flooring, under carpet, under hardwood. So yeah, it happens. It happens. I would say 10-15% of those. But mainly it's not the only the issue, Dave. The issue is like terrazzo gets mistreated by the buildings by coating it with a multiple layer of the wax. So
Right.
what happens? What happens basically, if you take terrazzo and you cover with the coating, you uh, like instantly taking off all the beauty out of it, right? All the value out of it, because if you put this coating over terrazzo, you make it look like vinyl floor, and vinyl
Correct.
floor is the cheapest floor. So that's a bad culture, and it's basically um, majority of the buildings, they do that. They take the. It's not just that. Let me start from the beginning. When terrazzo gets installed, and it's very important to highlight, when terrazzo gets installed by Terrazzo and Marble Mosaic Association (NTMA), it has to be stopped at 200 grit. At that point, at 200 grit, terrazzo is not shining.
No.
And what they do after 200, they put acrylic sealer on top of it, and that's it. And then let's say that's been done, and the building is taking over the maintenance. So what they
Right.
do is they basically, instead of strip and recoat it, they just strip it like lightly, maybe screen it, or sometimes they don't screen it even. I've seen that many times, and they just keep adding coats of wax over terrazzo, like 20 layers, 40
Yep.
layers for
Yep.
many years. I've seen that, it's on my YouTube channel that, like we did the United Center. Probably that floor is being covered for many years with the wax. It's just ridiculous how thick it was. So that's a bad culture also. It's not about the covering it with the vinyl uh, carpet. It's also how much wax or acrylic sealers you put over terrazzo and taking all the beauty out of it. So what we do, we just strip off the wax and we build the polish from 200 all the way to 3000, and then we polish it, and we seal it with the very thin microtopic sealers, and that way terrazzo looks, it has a glass-like appearance, distinctness of the images there. All those things are very important.
So do you have a lot of these terrazzo floors that you're taking the finish off? And for folks that are listening, if you have these layers of it, has the floor finish actually damaged the terrazzo, or is it,
It does. It suffocates it, basically. It doesn't let it breathe at all.
Right.
And then it's basically taking the film and put over something, like, let's say, on a cell phone screen, right? We have glass screen,
Right.
and then when you put the protection on it, you see that it's reflection changes right away. There is no high resolution anymore. Same thing happens to terrazzo floors. If you put coating on top of it, you taking away the glass-like appearance, the potential. But it's a funny thing. Like in 2023, we did Rialto Square Theater. It's a quite iconic building in Illinois, in Joliet, Illinois, and that floor is amazing, piece of art. The whole building was piece of art. But the funny thing that over its existence, which was 100 years, it never been polished. Never, ever been polished. It was installed, it was sealed, and that's it. So it took 100 years for that floor to get to its best possible appearance. Like it came out amazing. It looked like, I highly encourage everybody, if they want to see something interesting, something that kind of reflects history, heritage, culture, everything together, you should watch that video, because that video showcases and highlights the very important parts of the terrazzo restoration work.
So
if
you're watching the video right now, sorry guys, if you're listening to it, you can't see it, but I've got it up here. He's got this video here, of the theater and everything. Like you said, you got to look at some of this stuff. I worked with a guy over in Kansas City called Mo, and you and him got together, and this is the reason we're together today, is because on LinkedIn we all got together, and Mo's been a real good friend of mine over in Kansas City. There's another stone restoration guy over in that area, and I think I hear a common thing through all of you, is that it's about the skill. It's about getting back to the natural stone and working with this, rather than throwing a covering on any of this type of floor. It does require quite a bit to get going, but long term, it's always going to be more budget friendly.
Yeah, budget friendly, and then diamond refinishing is budget friendly, because if you look at the building, you have to apply the time lifetime to it. If you like in one terms, like it's cheaper to strip and wax, right? But you have to do this every year, and then floor looks bad right away in a month, because it's
and your
scuffed up.
quality is always going down, always.
Exactly.
And it goes down very, very quickly.
Yeah, it degrades all the time. So it just it looks good for a day, and that's it. So it's just fooling yourself.
Well,
So
I
when
call
you
it
dive,
the life cycle of the floor. Over a 10-year time span, how much are you going to spend on this stripping and refinishing, buffing and polishing, versus
exactly.
if you would naturally restore it, naturally polish?
And then I have statistics, and because over the years I've gone back to my projects when I diamond refinished terrazzo,
Right.
after 5 years, after 7 years, and then I was surprised how well it maintained itself, and with zero maintenance, And for example, the Rialto Square Theater, we did the vitrification, and vitrification is, like, if folks need to understand, the word is called it's a French word, and the kind of translates into making it glass-like. So what vitrification does is not only polishes the surfaces well, it also increases the density. he adds the calcium into the terrazzo, into the marble. So basically, there's two things, right? We got crystallization and vitrification.
Right.
Crystallization is a method when you using the source of the calcium that stone has,
Right.
and you bringing it up to the surface, making the bottom portion of the stone weaker because you pulled all the calcium up to the surface. When vitrification is by adding the calcium into the surface, and not just that. I have a good way to explain that.
Okay.
Crystallization is when you see the lake when it freezes, frozen lake, and you
Right.
see the fogginess to it, right? Foggy, like like blurriness. You don't see the like distinctness of the image at all. It's all foggy. It's all milky, right? That's a
Yeah, it's not clear.
crystallization. It's a
It's not clear. You
crystallization.
can't see through it.
Exactly. So it's a crystal. That's a crystallization because it's crystal being moved around and changed the structure of the ice,
Right.
or ice got formed with that movement, like in a lot of movement, right? And vitrification is when you see the like lake of uh, Tahoe when it freezes, for example, or a Baikal in Russia, and you can see it through. You can see everything. That's a vitrification when nothing rearranges. Everything stays the way it is. So it looks like glass.
Right.
So if you do that with terrazzo or if you do with marble, basically you increasing the density of the surface tremendously. And he regains and develops self-defensive abilities to the point where you can walk on it for many, many years and you won't be able to produce the wear and tear pattern
So
or
I'm
patina.
am I hearing that you're not a real big fan of crystallization?
No, I'm not a big fan of crystallization because, as I said, it's a steroid. It's a steroid of the like. It's almost like if you take an athlete and feed that athlete with the steroid all the time. That's a crystallization.
I never heard it put that way, but that's good.
That's exactly what it is. So what you do as steroid enhances the athlete's performance, but then it crashes him down, right? It crashes him. It enhances, and suddenly just after that it's done. And the same thing happens to the stone. You enhancing its polishing ability, but you basically making it extremely weak. And many times when I see crystallization effects, you see cellulites or you see hail patterns, you see low spots, indentations, orange peel, and then also the floor start looking like a plastic. And that happens a lot in Vegas. If you go to Vegas, I'm sure you've been to Vegas. If you pay attention when you go to Vegas, and then those casinos, the amazing,
Oh, yeah.
floor, like great architecturally design is amazing, but they look like plastic. They look like nothing. They take all the living organisms from the terrazzo or stone, and then there's nothing left from it. Because in Vegas, they have to do this fast, right? So they have to just take the pink crystallizer, come with a lightweight buffer, put the steel wool on it, and just keep polishing. The polisher has a headphone. I mean, he's listening music, and that's it. But then there is no pride, there is no care, nothing
No.
like that. So it takes all the living organism and the living thing out of the stone. So that's what I call bad culture. The culture is bad, and my job as I'm getting older is to change the culture as much as I can by doing right things. And then I'm not saying that I'm going to change the culture just globally, but what I can do is to believe what I believe, and then exercise that and practice that and educate that as much as I can. through my
You
work.
know, usually at the end of a podcast, I have to ask my guests to give me kind of their parting thought. I got to tell you, I just think you gave it to us.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, you know,
Yes.
you are really just about taking care of the stone and doing it naturally. And I like so much what you said. I mean, we could sit here and talk forever, but you know, we're looking at a long time here, folks. If you like this podcast, please share it with people, because that's what podcasting is all about. Subscribe to the channel, share it with people. Go to the website. You've seen it here on the video. If you're listening to the podcast, it'll be down in the show notes down below. Reach out to Kosta. He was easy to get a hold of. He's more than happy to share his wisdom and his time with you. You know, maybe you'll come back on later sometime, and we can get into some really nitty gritty about, you know, some of that machinery and some of the real technical stuff you do. Didn't want to get into it too much here on the first time with us, because there's a lot to it.
Yeah, let's talk about culture. I think this is a great way to approach this, because the problem with the culture drives everything. So the right culture is the right methodology and everything else, right skills, right people. So, you know, I'll be happy to share my thoughts next time too, Dave. I appreciate this opportunity to talk and explain what I do. I really appreciate that. And I think you're doing the right thing here, because it's important to get the word out, right? You know, and
Well,
that's
I
a
like
good
talking with
platform.
you because, you know, I teach a very basic stone care class to janitorial services, you know, that have stone in the buildings that they already maintain, trying to get them to understand, don't be afraid of it. You can work with it. You know, they're not even close to understanding the level that you are. But I think there's room for both in this industry. Don't cover it. And I think that's the thing here is, you know, people come to class and go, well, can't we just pour finish on? I go, you can pour finish on anything. It's liquid. It can go on anything, but you will never hear me here at the Academy ever tell you to do that. And I love what you're saying today. Thank you for your time, Kosta. Thank you, folks, for listening. And
Thank you.
make sure you keep it healthy out there, folks. And thank you, Kosta, for being on with us.
Thanks for having me, Dave.